Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ask the Expert webinar, Creating PowerPoints with SAS 2. My name is Tiago de Souza, and I will serve as your moderator for today's event. Now, I would like to take a moment to introduce our presenter, Judy Orr, a senior technical training consultant here at SAS. Judy is a valued member of the education delivery team specializing in teaching SAS courses. She excels at simplifying complex concepts and instilling confidence in learners regarding their SAS skills. Why don't we turn things over to our presenters so we can get started? Judy, please take it away.
Thank you, Tiago. All right. Hello, everyone. And this is a follow-up to a presentation I did earlier this year where I covered how to create PowerPoint slides from your SAS results using the Output Delivery System. In that presentation, I covered different techniques using code, specifically the ODS statement. And I showed you how to do that in the different SAS interfaces, specifically Enterprise Guide, SAS Studio on SAS 9, SAS Studio on VIA, and we also looked at the add-in for Microsoft Office. So from that presentation, there are some topics that I wanted to address and go a little bit deeper into in this presentation. All right, so in this presentation, I'm going to give you some general tips on how to apply your company PowerPoint theme or template. So this question came up quite a bit, actually. So we're going to go through some techniques, and really when I do this demonstration, it's actually more about PowerPoint and less about SAS, and maybe things that you already know, but I just wanted to give you a refresh on that one. The other thing I want to show you today is how you can take your individual SAS results that show up on one slide and combine them into multiple results per slide. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do it from the SAS side as opposed to copying and pasting in PowerPoint. So we'll go through some ODS statements on that. I also want to show you how you can use PROC template code to actually create your own customized PowerPoint style sheet. Now, there are a lot of styles available from the ODS system, but sometimes there isn't just that one custom style that you can find from the default selection. So I'll show you how to use some PROC template code to start to customize and create your own. Okay, and then after that, we'll just talk a little bit about resources and where you can find more information. All right, so when it comes to applying your company theme, and as I mentioned, this is more about PowerPoint and less about SAS. So when you generate your SAS results, what you're going to do, the first method is essentially two methods. So method one, you're going to copy and paste. Yeah, copy and paste. But when you go to paste, you're going to make sure that you choose the icon to use the destination theme. So that's the key, okay? So that's one method, and you probably do that already. The second method, though, involves using the design menu in PowerPoint, okay? And essentially, you're going to apply your company theme from the design menu by browsing to your company theme and applying it to your SAS results that way. So. All right, so we'll go through that. I'll be doing a demonstration on that coming up. All right, next we'll get into how you can use the ODS system to create multiple results on one slide. ODS layout is what we'll be getting into for this. And basically, ODS layout allows you to arrange your tables, your graphs, and text on one page. So what you're seeing here is obviously a bar chart and a list table side by side. The default when you use those ODS statements is to get one SAS result, one report per slide. Well, what if you want to do something like this? Well, that's what I'll be getting into with this ODS layout gridded. And essentially, with this layout gridded, you define ODS regions for your different columns, and you can add ODS text for each of your regions, okay? So SAS 9 pretty much supports two types of layouts. There's absolute, ODS layout absolute, and ODS gridded. So the PowerPoint destination specifically supports the ODS layout gridded. Okay, so we'll get into a little bit on that. This gives you an idea of the code that we're going to be going through to create this multiple results slide. And this is just obviously the template of the code. I'm going to fill in the blanks during the demonstration. But essentially, you can see we still need, of course, our ODS PowerPoint statement to open the destination. But what we're going to add are statements like ODS graphics to manage the fitting of multiple items on a page. We're going to add the ODS layout gridded, and this is the key to defining the multiple columns on a page. Now, you can do more than just 2 columns. Maybe you want to do 2 columns in a row. But keeping in mind, this is a PowerPoint presentation. So you don't want to clutter it up with too much information. But if you wanted to, you can add rows as well. So in this generic example, you can see how we define these columns, right? Using ODS region blocks to define the different columns. Okay, so I'll be going through the demonstration coming up. All right, and then I'm going to get into some PROC template code. Now, for those of you out there that code in SAS, you know that PROC template code, when you look at it, it's a lot. It can be really daunting. So I'm just going to go through how you can use PROC template to create a highly customized style template like the one I have here, right? Now, I deliberately made it bold with the gold background and the orange for the graph and the blue and the green to show you that you can get as custom as you want. And this is all done in SAS using PROC template. So it's saving you having to do this on the PowerPoint slide. And once you have this set up, you can apply this to any type of PowerPoint result that you generate. So I'm going to go through the details of PROC template, how you can use a define statement to define your custom style sheet that you can apply to any PowerPoint output. And we'll talk about how you can modify style elements and style attributes. Okay. All right, so let's get into demonstration on some of these techniques. Okay, so let's start off with applying your company template. So I've opened up, before I generate the SAS results, I've opened up our SAS external PowerPoint. So we have 2 templates that we use here. So I want to apply this company template to my SAS results. So let's generate some SAS results, right? So this is some data step code. So the code up here is basically setting up the tables I need to generate my results. So I just go through the top part briefly. So this is just a data step to create 2 tables, reading from the shoes table in our SAS Help library. So you have access to this in SAS Help. Subsetting the data for Canada and the United States specifically, and then outputting the rows for Canada and the United States to these 2 tables. Okay, so that's just the data step part of it. And then I use a PROC sort to sort specifically the Canada shoes information by subsidiary and product. Okay, so the important part is I'm going to generate the tables I need. And then I have my ODS PowerPoint statement. So this is what you learned about earlier in the year, or you might already know of this. So to create a PowerPoint result of this PROC print output, I would add an ODS PowerPoint statement, specify the file equals option to create a file in my temp folder called canshoes.pptx. So you have to have the appropriate extension for the appropriate file format that you're creating. So in this case, PowerPoint goes with the PPTX extension. So this is going to be my SAS results created in PowerPoint, and it'll be this PROC print report, which is a PROC print of the can shoes table. And it'll be multiple pages because I'm paging by subsidiary. Okay. All right, so let me run this code and generate this can choose PPTX PowerPoint result. All right, so we can see the HTML, but I want to focus on the PowerPoint result. So I'll just double click on the link so that it opens up in PowerPoint. All right, so this is my default PowerPoint result. When you get your results in PowerPoint, it's actually using a default style sheet in the background called PowerPoint Lite. Okay, and you can see it's a basic style sheet with, black and gray and white. Okay, and you can see that I get my 5 pages of results, my shoe sales by subsidiary and product. Now, what I want to do is I want to apply my company template to this. So one way, the copy and paste way, Control A to select all my slides, copy, go to my company template, and when I go to paste, I'm going to paste, but don't just hit the paste icon at the top, go into the paste options and use the destination theme. Okay, and again, you might already be familiar with this, but this question came up, so I just want to make sure that everyone is familiar with this. Okay, and just like that, I have my results in PowerPoint using my company theme. And the main thing I wanted to pull in from the theme is the color scheme and, very importantly, the logo and the copyright information. Now, you still might need to do just a little bit of tweaking in PowerPoint, which some of it you can do just by right-clicking and with the slides still selected and going into layout. And with our complete template, we have all these different layout options. So I'm going to choose the one for SAS content, and you can see how it lays out the results a little better so it's not kind of off the page, right? But again, still a little cleanup might be needed, like for example in this, getting rid of that subtitle. And it looks like I have a little bit of overlapping here, so I might need to just move this up and extend that a little bit. But it's a lot easier from starting from scratch, right? And trying to just take the basic and make it look like this. Okay, so that's method 1. All right, copy and paste. Yes, copy and paste. So I'm going to undo all this and go back to the the template. Okay, the other method is to apply your company theme through the design menu. So what I'm going to do first is going to go to that design menu in PowerPoint. And in the design menu, you'll see a drop-down arrow next to themes. If I click that drop-down arrow, I can save my company theme. So I'm going to save this to a location where I can easily apply it. Okay. So that's the only reason I'm saving. If it's easier for you to just use your original location, that's okay as well. But I'm going to save this to my C temp folder, and I'm just going to save it as theme 1. All right, so I've saved my company theme so I can easily find it. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint created from SAS, right, with my 5 pages. And I'm going to go to the design menu here. And again, go to that drop down. And I'm going to browse for my theme. And I'm going to look for it in the convenient location where I saved it on my C drive temp folder. And there is my theme. And I'm going to hit apply. And just like that, I've applied my company theme. Okay. I think this way's a little better. To me, it looks a little sharper, a little cleaner. And then with this method, notice how it automatically opened up the design suggestions on the right. I can go through each slide and just choose the design selection from all these choices, right? So I'm just going to go with the first one, right? So a little bit easier formatting, right, for the slides. So I don't have to do a lot of manual actual cleanup on the slides. I just go through the design ideas. And just like that, I've applied my company theme. Okay. All right. So hopefully that was maybe just a little bit of review, refresher. And again, that's more about PowerPoint, less about SAS. All right, so let's continue. Let me close this up. And let's continue talking about multiple results on one slide. All right, so let's take a look at this code. All right, so what do I have here? I have an ODS PowerPoint statement to create a shoe returns one PowerPoint. Okay. And what I'm doing with this result is I'm creating a bar chart for shoe returns for Canada, a vertical bar chart using PROC SGplot, a PROC print listing for specifically for shoe returns for the Vancouver subsidiary, another PROC SGplot for a vertical bar chart for the United States, and then a PROC print listing specifically for shoe returns for Chicago. Okay, so let's just run all this. And again, the point is generating a PowerPoint result, shoe returns one, that's going to be written out. All right. So we saw from the last result, and we're going to see the same thing with this result. When we get our results from in PowerPoint, we get one procedure result per slide. So I have my bar chart for Canada. I have my shoe returns for Vancouver. I have a bar chart for the United States, and then shoe returns for Chicago, right? So one graph per slide. Well, what if I wanted to combine this listing for Vancouver with the bar chart for Canada, right? Because just looking at the bar chart, I see mostly blue for Vancouver, so I want to highlight the Vancouver results right next to the Canada chart, okay? And same thing for the United States. I want this listing to the right of the bar chart. Okay, well, your first thought is probably, okay, just copy and paste in PowerPoint. And you could do that, but I want to show you how to do it in SAS. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can do that in SAS. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to add some more ODS statements, right? So the ODS system is pretty powerful. You can do so much with it. All right, so we're going to add to the previous code, right? So you can see I still have my ODS PowerPoint because I need to generate that PowerPoint. This one I'm going to call shoe returns 2, okay? And I'm going to add some more statements. So, all right, so first thing, I'm going to turn on ODS graphics. And after a /, set the width and height of my page. And the reason I'm doing this is to ensure that my graph and my list table can fit on a page. Now, I must admit, I had to play with these numbers just a little bit to make sure that the graph and the list table fit on the page. So this is a setting I found worked perfectly for me. You might have to adjust these a little bit, okay, depending on what you're putting on the page. Okay, next is my ODS layout gridded. So this is what's going to create my multiple columns on a page. And in this case, I specify ODS layout gridded columns equals 2. So this will set up so that I have 2 columns side by side on one page. So then the next step is to define my ODS region blocks to define these 2 columns. So next, I add an ODS region to start my first column on my first page. So that'll be the column on the left. And for that column on the left, I want the text to say Canada. So I added ODS text for that. Okay. And then what I want in that left column. So I want my PROC SGplot vertical bar chart for Canada. Right? So this ODS region block will be my left side of my first page. And then I'm going to do something similar for the right side of the first page. Start another ODS region, specify the text. This will be my PROC print listing. All right. Okay, so then I want to move on to page 2. So I'm going to use ODS start page now. So this forces the start of a new page. If I leave this out, my page 2 results could overlap with my page 1. And I don't want that, so I'm going to force that start of that new page. And then I'm going to continue with the same ODS region blocks for page 2. So my first region on page 2, column 1 of page 2, is going to be my vertical bar chart for the United States. And then my next region will be, for column 2, will be my PROC print listing for Chicago. Okay. I need to end my ODS layout gridded. So ODS layout end. To end that, close my PowerPoint, reset my titles and footnotes. All right, so let's run all of this and take a look at our results, which will now be in shoe returns 2. You can already see the side-by-side from the HTML, but we want to look at the PowerPoint. And there you go. I go from a 4-page PowerPoint to a 2-page PowerPoint, right? So my Canada, Vancouver next to that, highlighting the blue, which looks like that's where most of the returns are, and similar for the United States, highlighting the Chicago returns in the list table. All right, and all done on the SAS side. All right, so that's how you can do that. All right, let's take a look at, next thing I want to take a look at is PROC template. Okay, so let's open up PROC template and let's close this one. All right, so PROC template. So the styles, the default style that's used for your different ODS destinations are controlled by these different style sheets. And you can get a listing of those style sheets with PROC template. So let's take a look at these styles that are available. So PROC template list styles, as you can see, creates a report. Let me just zoom this in a little bit closer so you can see it. So it creates a report of the available style sheets that you can apply to your ODS output. Now, specifically for PowerPoint, there are 2 style sheets, PowerPoint Dark and PowerPoint Light. The default that's used is PowerPoint Light. So you never have to specify style equals PowerPoint Light. But you can try any of these with your PowerPoint output. But just be aware that these 2 specifically are designed for PowerPoint. So you could apply others, but the results might not look that great. Okay. All right, so those are the different style sheets. So, and just as a reminder, the way you apply these style sheets, if I go back to the previous result, is what you can do is you can add a style option to your ODS PowerPoint statement and list and specify the style sheet that you want to apply. So if I want to use PowerPoint Dark instead of PowerPoint Light, I would put style equals PowerPoint Dark. It's that simple. So I'm going to rerun this with the PowerPoint Dark applied. And let's take a look at the result. Right, so you can see the PowerPoint Dark result, right? So those style sheets control your background colors, your fonts, the look, right? The look and feel of your result. All right, so you can try all these different style sheets and you might just not find the exact one that you're looking for. right? And to try and customize all of this in PowerPoint, I'm not that good in PowerPoint. I think it would be a little challenging, and to maintain it consistently, and that's the key, right? You want a style that you're going to use on a regular basis, that you don't want to customize all the time in PowerPoint. So I'm going to show you how you can do it with PROC Template. All right, so those are the different style sheets. Okay, so let's take a look at the PROC template code behind the PowerPoint Lite style sheet. So we can generate that code by using PROC template source styles.powerpoint lite, and this will generate in the log the PROC template code that's used to create that original PowerPoint template or style sheet, right? And you can see it in the log, PROC template. The style is PowerPoint Lite. It's defining PowerPoint Lite, and it uses all kinds of statements. It starts off with a scheme and then different elements and attributes. And it has all these class statements to define different elements. And then after a forward slash, the attributes that go with that element. So for the fonts, different attributes. For the text, different attributes, etc. And it keeps going and going, because there's so many potential elements to your output depending on if it's a table, a plot, a graph, a map. So this code just goes on and on and on. And it looks a little bit scary, but you do start to see some repetition, right? And that's just what I want to show you, how we can customize some of these elements and attributes, right? Without going too crazy, and just create something custom for yourself. All right, so let's take a look at this. All right, so let's go down here and all right. So using PROC template, we are going to create a custom style. So I start off with PROC template, and I use a define statement to define my personal style sheet. Okay, so I'm calling it my PowerPoint. And I'm going to start with a base PowerPoint template. So parent equals styles PowerPoint Lite. So again, I would recommend starting with either PowerPoint Lite or PowerPoint Dark. You can try the other style sheets as a base, but you might get inconsistent or unexpected results, right? Because these two were specifically designed for PowerPoint, as you can see with all the code, right? Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use style statements to modify the specific elements and attributes that we want. So, for example, I want to modify the background color of my result. So this is the overall page background color. So this is the body element. So I would specify style body, and then after a forward slash, the attribute that goes with that body element to change the color, and that's the background color. So I'm going to set the color I want, gold. Okay, so the key is finding the element you want, and then how do you want to set the attribute? Okay, so that will set the page background color to gold. Next, I want to customize the font for the graph titles. So for that, it's the graph title 1 text. Now, notice it's graph title 1. That implies there's a graph title 2, which there probably is, right? So there's different types of graph titles. So graph title 1 text, the attributes I want to modify, the font, Arial 20-point bold, and the color gray. Okay. Next, the font for the footnotes. So that's the graph footnote text, setting the font of that to Arial 10-point italic and the color to red. So this is specifically the graph footnote. The table headers, the table generated by PROC print, just the header. I want to set the font of that to Arial 10-point italic and the background color to chartreuse, which is like a green, and then the color of the font to black. Okay. The cells of a listing table. So that's the data element. So for that, I want to set font to Arial 8-point, background color cyan, which is like a blue, the font color black, and set the cell width. Okay. And then next, I want to move the date and page number to the top right. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the default is that the date and the page number come out at the bottom left and right. That's the default. I want to move that. So the element that I want to adjust is the body date and the page number. And then the attributes I want to change, the vertical alignment to the top, the text align to the right, the font Arial 9-point bold, and set the color to brown. All right, and then I'll end my define block. All right, so this is what's going to create my PowerPoint style sheet that's going to be called my PowerPoint. Okay, so let me run that to generate my PowerPoint. Okay, looks good. Okay, and then I'm going to apply it. But before I apply it, I just want to show you what I'm going to apply it to. And let's generate the default first. So another ODS PowerPoint file equals. This time I'm creating a custom presentation PPTX file. Okay, I haven't applied the style yet. That's commented out. I will in a second. And for this one, I'm going to have proc print results based on the class table in SAS help and a horizontal bar chart of the SAS help class table. Okay, so let's generate this PowerPoint. Go. All right, this custom presentation PPTX. Let's generate this first without anything applied so you can see what the default looks like. And you've probably experienced this where you've applied the PowerPoint destination and things like a list table end up on multiple pages, right? This is one list table, but because there are so many rows, it ends up putting it on to 2 pages, 2 slides, and then this is the horizontal bar chart. Okay, so I want to customize this with my PowerPoint style sheet that I just created, which is going to condense these 2 pages into one and apply all the different attributes. All right, so let's try it out. So I'm going to go back to my code. And I'm going to apply my style equals my PowerPoint. And let's rerun everything. And if I did everything correctly, cross my fingers, when I open up this PowerPoint, it should apply my custom style sheet. Okay, and there is my custom style sheet, the yellow background, the green and the blue in the table, the date and page number in the top right corner, and then my bar chart, the gray title, the red footnote that I wanted. Okay. All right, well, let's take this one step further. So you get your results and you think, I don't like this white background for the graph. Maybe I can find the style element for that so that I can make it orange or whatever color, right? So let's see if we can find that, okay? And the point that I want to make from this and that you take away is that it's not as hard as you think to create these style sheets, right? It's just knowing a little bit about how PROC template works. All right, so I'm going to go back to the original code. And I'm going to rerun the code behind the PowerPoint Lite. And I'm going to try and find the element for the background color. All right, so I reran the code. Let's take a look in the log, right? So this is all the code, the default code for PROC template for PowerPoint Lite, right? There's lots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Find menu from the Edit menu and find in that code in the log background. And my intent here is I'm looking for something about background color. All right, so here's one, background color equals. Is this what I want? Well, if I look at the class statement, what this is impacting is the graph walls. It's the background color of the graph wall. And I don't think that's quite what I'm looking for. So I'm going to look for the next one. And this says class graph background. So that sounds more like what I'm looking for. Class graph background. So I'm going to copy this statement. Now, notice in the original code, it uses class to define the elements and then after a / the attributes. So class is preferred for creating your templates, but for modifying, you can use style. So I'm going to use style instead. All right, so I'm going to copy this code as kind of like my template. And I'm going to go back to my code, my PROC template code. All right, and I'm going to add to my PowerPoint style that I created. So I'm going to add to this PROC template at the bottom here. I'm going to add in this code for modify graph background. All right, and I'm going to paste in here that code that I copied. And I'm just going to modify it a little bit for what I want. So I'm going to use a style statement instead of class. Style. Okay, so the element is the graph background. And for the background color, now this is picking up some kind of default in the original code. I just want orange. And there's another color, and I'm going to choose here orange as well. Now, why twice? Well, I'm not sure which orange, which background color it's picking up, background color or color. So I'm going to go with changing both. I probably could have put the semicolon here and just used background color, but my guess is that different types of graph maybe pick up color versus background color. So I'm going to change both of them to orange to be on the safe side. All right, so that should do it. So let's rerun all of this because I'm updating my PowerPoint and rerun the code that it's applied to and get the updated result. And if I found the right element and attributes, this custom presentation should, oh, it's just delayed. Change my graph background color to orange, and there you go. It works. All right, so I'm happy now, and I want to apply this to every PowerPoint result that I generate. Okay, so let's test it out with something else. So let's go back to the multiple results on one slide, and let's apply my PowerPoint style that I just created. So let's rerun all of this. And if I did everything correctly, it should apply my custom PowerPoint style sheet to those results. And sure enough, it does. Okay. All right, and that's the beauty of doing it in SAS, right? So you can customize something just for yourself and always apply it to your PowerPoint result. Okay, and that's using PROC template. Okay. All right, so let's continue with the rest of the presentation. All right. So, how can you learn more about all these different features? Because there's a lot more to learn, right? So, we do actually have a specific course on this, data visualization using ODS graphics. And in fact, let me just share. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Let me just share with you some of what is covered in that course. All right, so data visualization using ODS graphics. So this is the course that will teach you more about ODS layout gridded proc template, but look at everything else you learn in that course. You learn about using proc SGplot, SG panel, SGPy, SGmap, enhancing visualizations, adding axes, legends, text, the different ODS statements, the graph template language. So there's lots more in this course, okay? And really the only prerequisite that we recommend is programming one. So some programming background, right? Because it gets a little bit advanced in the code. Okay, so there's lots that's covered in this course. And in terms of when it's offered, there's actually one coming up at the end. Soon actually, end of October. And then the next one is next year in March. And there is e-learning as well. Okay, so that would be the course. If you are interested in course on the details on this, I just scratched the surface really. All right, and then lastly, just finishing up with these resources. There's, of course, lots in the help documentation. There's specific, we'll provide you with these links, by the way, to the ODS layout gridded statement. So you can look at other options you can add there, the template procedure, which there's lots to learn about that, the different style elements and attributes. There's all kinds of details in the documentation. And of course, there's papers out there that you might be interested in just browsing through to get some tips on these topics as well. Okay. All right. So that brings me to the end of what I wanted to share with you today. I'll turn it over to Tiago for Q&A.
Yes, thank you. With that, we will be moving into the Q&A segment of the webinar. Judy, now on to our first question here. Someone's asking, wouldn't you need a run statement after the ODS start page equals now statement? They're not entirely sure when you need to run.
Okay. No, you don't. Those ODS statements are considered to be global type statements that don't need a run statement. The only time you need a run statement is at the end of a step, like a data step block, data, your statements run, procedure, your statements run, but not for an ODS statement.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that one. Someone else is asking, what colors can we use and how do we find out?
Oh my gosh. Well, you can use kind of your standard basic colors. So you can type in red, green, blue, light blue. How can you find out? I'm sure there's a listing somewhere in the documentation. In Enterprise Guide, there's also a way, there's a keystroke that you can use to get the list of colors. I don't know it off the top of my head, but the colors are available in the documentation. But you can always just type in like exactly what you want. So you can type in light blue, light green, dark green, and you will get some results.
Sounds easy enough. Another question here. Would it be possible to define the size of the regions for the elements, such as 70% of the space for the column on the right and 30% for the left? Would there be a padding option for that to start off more centered as well?
You know what? I'm sure there is probably a way to get more specific. It sounds like you might need more of the ODS Absolute, but the PowerPoint doesn't support that. With the ODS Gridded, I'm pretty sure that you probably could do that. I would have to look at some of the options available.
Perfect. Thank you. Follow-up color question here. Someone's asking, can you use hex codes to specify colors?
Yes, you can. Yeah, if you know the hex code, you can. Yes, you can.
Perfect. Thank you. Another one here. Would it be possible to add an SVG generated on SAS in the result outputted to PowerPoint? This SVG file is available as an image saved on the disk in this scenario.
Oh, I'm not sure how to do that. I'll have to follow up with that one.
Okay, thank you. This one doesn't really sound like a question. It's saying, ever used the pre-image option for adding logos to your PowerPoints like this? And then there's a bit of code. It's saying ODS PDF text equals, and then in quotes, there's caret S equals bracket pre-image equals ampersand logo. A lot of code.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Okay.
used pre-image?
I've seen it, and definitely you can do that to add additional images, pages. Yeah, that's a way of doing things as well. Yeah, if you want those extra images added, for sure.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Another question, where are custom templates stored?
Custom templates are actually stored in the SAS help library. So they're stored in a template master, and they're stored there permanently. And if you wanted to, you could actually store your template somewhere else if you wanted to use something other than SAS user, but that's where they're stored. Yeah.
Thank you. Someone's asking, is there a way to completely remove the automatic date and page number?
Yeah, so when you use any of the ODS destinations, there is that automatic date and page number that comes out at the bottom, left and right. So the way to remove that is on the option statement, the global option statement. It's simply options, no date, no number, all one word, no date, no number, semicolon. And that will get rid of the date and the page number.
Perfect. Thank you. Can rows be specified with the ODS layout gridded statement?
Yes, yeah. So with ODS layout gridded, you can add more regions, right? Because remember, I defined regions. So you could add columns, you could add rows as a region. Now, keeping in mind though, that these are PowerPoint slides. So you don't want to add too many columns, too many rows, right? If you're getting to that level of detail, then maybe you should be creating PDFs as opposed to PowerPoint. But yes, you can definitely add to that ODS layout gridded statement columns and rows. But for PowerPoint, I'd probably keep it to 2 columns and maybe 1 row.
Thank you. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for questions today. On behalf of myself, Judy, and all of SAS, we really hope they enjoyed today's webinar. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you learned something new. Bye-bye.